Hey guys, today's topic has to do with unhealed Cptsd and if somebody with unhealed Cptsd from childhood, if they can be a narcissist. This was something that was asked on my channel. It's a good question and the answer can hurt sometimes and it can hit close to home, but we're going to examine it today, regardless of how it feels when we examine it. So with that in mind, let's get started. For those that don't know me, my name is Michelle. I'm a life and relationship coach and I'm the founder of the Thriver School of Transformation. That's an interactive monthly membership where we discuss everything that I talk about on my channel and we learn ways to put it into practice in your daily life. So if that's something that you might be interested in, make sure you check out the links in my description box below. Okay, so unhealed Cptsd and if you are or can be a narcissist. Let's kind of talk about some different scenarios that I've seen, and I would be interested in how you see it as well. So make sure you let me know in the comment section. One very common scenario that happens a lot is that you'll find yourself very much attracted to people that have cluster B personality, whether it's NPD or even BPD. Okay, in fact, if somebody doesn't have that personality, you may find a healthy person boring. Or you may find that it just doesn't feel like love if you don't have that person having that cluster B personality. And the reason for that is because the relationships that we go through in childhood, they shape how we view relationships in our adult life. And if in childhood you had a parent that had that personality disorder, then it's going to be really normal for you to feel comfortable chasing after somebody's love, or feeling like you have to earn it, or feeling like you have to work hard to get it. To the point that, like I said, if somebody is healthy and you don't have to work hard to get their love, it almost doesn't feel good. And I know that may sound crazy or weird, but it's just how it is. Our brain will give us these feel-good feelings when something is familiar. Doesn't mean that that familiar something is necessarily good for us, but your brain spots things that are familiar, and when it's been used to being in certain dynamics, it'll feel like home. When the truth is that it is just very familiar. So I find that a lot of clients that are in this situation will tell me, Michelle, I just don't feel attracted to people that don't have those personalities. They bore me. Or it just doesn't feel good, it doesn't feel exciting. And again, it's because those dynamics in childhood are kicking on. Okay, so that's one scenario that I see a lot happen. Another scenario is that what happens is maybe somebody gets in a relationship with somebody relatively healthy, but you still have unhealed Cptsd. And when you have unhealed Cptsd, right, and your parent is the toxic person, even though it's your parent that's the toxic person, you were always polarized from that parent, right? They were running, you were chasing. And when you find yourself in a relationship with somebody healthy, sometimes you become that polarized version again in the opposite direction. So the person is healthy, and in childhood, if one person was healthy and loving and kind and wanting to love and give love, the other person, in childhood it was the parent, was, creating emotional chaos. So this time you get polarized and you kind of can show up in the same dynamics or treat the person the way you were treated being the opposite polarized version of them now. Okay, so that's something that can happen. And again, because you aren't healed and the dynamics of somebody being emotionally chaotic and somebody being relatively wanting love and relatively healthy are still alive. And if this person is going to be the chaotic one, then you show up as the emotionally chaotic one, because those are the dynamics that are familiar in your life. And that's a hard truth to swallow. And the sad thing is that it's not intentional, right? You're not intentionally trying to hurt somebody. You're not intentionally trying to cause this emotional chaos, but you're showing up from the wounds in childhood and the dynamics in childhood that have become part of your subconscious programming. And without realizing that that isn't normal, you're just playing out or carrying out the scenarios that you were taught. A third scenario that I see happen is maybe you had childhood CPTSD, and for whatever reason you were out on your own and you kind of seemed like you were recovering, right? Things in your life were going well. But you don't realize that this trauma is still kind of somewhere compartmentalized in your brain and still in your body. So you're just going through life. You may even have some healthy relationships, right, where nothing has been woken up. The trauma hasn't been woken up. So you're kind of showing up as your adult self, right? But because the trauma is still there, even if it's out of sight, out of mind, something that somebody does can actually open the door to that trauma. So for example, let's say you're in a relationship and things are going well and you're happy in that relationship, but suddenly the person starts acting in a way that, seems very insecure with the relationship. And maybe it starts causing you to kind of feel less secure in the relationship. And that insecurity, that not feeling grounded in the relationship, can sometimes wake up the trauma that hasn't been resolved yet. And so suddenly you'll start acting in ways, we call them narcissistic fleas, right? You start acting in ways or having behaviors that you saw in your childhood. And unhealed CPTSD in a relationship, let me tell you, it brings out the worst in you, okay? Because basically when you have that unhealed CPTSD now activated, because maybe it was dormant for a little while, right? But now it's been activated, you're actually showing up from that wounded place in childhood. So your inner child that isn't healed shows up and starts making decisions in your life and shows up and starts acting in ways that are emotionally chaotic. So it's important to understand these things can happen for a few different reasons. One, it's important to understand because I know some people watch my videos and they're like, Michele, I did that to somebody in the past. I don't think I'm a narcissist, but I've done that, these dynamics that you're talking about, and I really hurt somebody. And that's what woke me up to get help. And the reality is that person isn't a narcissist, but they were acting like a narcissist because it woke up those dynamics from childhood. And at least you can understand, okay, if you feel that way, if you feel you hurt somebody in the past, you can understand why. You can realize that it was your own wounds that were showing up, because remember, hurt people hurt people. So at least you can understand that. And I'm hoping that this information helps people that have unhealed CPTSD realize the importance of healing your wounds. Sometimes we tend to spend so much time in symptom management, in the external, whatever or however the CPTSD is activating or showing up in our life at the moment. We put a lot of focus on that particular circumstance. But the reality is that if you want to stop these dynamics, you have to heal and work through the side effects of CPTSD. You have to work through your protective self, and you have to start deconstructing the coping skills that you kind of went to in childhood in order to stay safe, right? Even emotionally safe. You develop these coping skills that when they're activated in an adult relationship really cause a lot of harm to others and ultimately to yourself. So I really encourage you, if you're wanting to have healthy relationships with others, you really have to take the time to work through your complex PTSD. It's not something that goes away overnight. It does take some time. And if you feel like you've been trying to do this for a long time and you just, you're hopping from video to video and you're not seeing the change that you want, make sure you check out the Thriver School of Transformation, because this is an international group of people that are doing the work to work through complex PTSD. We meet live weekly, and you'll certainly get support on your journey.